pretty decent crowd here, about 20 people, and I'm happy that you guys thought that this class was going to be important enough to participate. This is going to be a very surprising class for you guys. This is not going to be your typical how-to listing class. I would be willing to bet that nobody is teaching the techniques that I'm going to run through with you guys today. For anybody that doesn't know me, that's okay. For anybody that doesn't know me out there, let me give you just a little bit brief about my background before we get started. I've been into real estate ever since I've been into Las Vegas, about 18 years, buying and selling properties, but my prior life is law enforcement. And not just any law enforcement, is a pretty significant part of law enforcement. I spent 10 years with the Virginia State Police. I graduated the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I have a background in behavioral science and profiling. And we're going to be talking about some of those items today, as how it pertains to sales and how it pertains to just how you deal with clients and people in general. This is a very important part, and the last part of this class is going to be, and this is only going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours long, is going to be very important. So I'm glad to see at least the people here. They already have their pens and pads out. We'll have basically a slideshow on paper. You'll be able to see that this is my wife's beautiful work and not mine, because my handwriting is awful. When we get over here, you'll be able to differentiate what I put in here and what she put in here, because it looks crappy. I've broken all my hands through playing football, all my fingers, and my hands are pretty well tore up. But that's just a little bit about me. The way I started with Signature, I started with Brandon. I think I was maybe his 6th hire in the very first week, and ended up having an office in the Northwest, and was the managing broker there. And now through sales and everything, and come on in, it's okay, come on in and sit down. The mics are hot. We still have people coming in at the door. Thanks for coming. There's coffee and cookie over here if you missed it out online. We're starting to come in now, so it's a good time to start coming back and assembling toward the office. But anyway, I want to talk to you guys about the psychology of a listing. We will get into small parts of the listing presentation, but not a large part of that. If you want large parts of actually how to physically do, Scott, I know that you're brand new, and when you and I work one-on-one, we'll get into those parts, but you're still going to be able to follow along on this as a brand new agent. So let's just jump right into it. By the way, let's do this first. Who in here has taken a listing already this year? Who in here do listings? Okay. Who in here does primarily buyers? You know, are out there. Everybody should be able to take a listing. It's not that hard. It's actually easier for me to take listings and manage listings than it is to be a buyer's agent. Give you a for instance, I took a $1.1 million listing 3 weeks ago, sold 19 days. I've done much less work on that $1.1 million listing that I took 3 weeks ago. In the beginning, it's a week's worth of work, but I also worked with a buyer this week, the $500,000 buyer. I had to show them 19 properties. I had 5 tanks of gas. I wrote 8, 9 contracts. Most of them got rejected, and finally got them into a contract, and it was a mental nightmare for me and a mental nightmare for them. It's okay. It's all money. It's all the same things. But typically, to me, working listings is far more profitable for me than working with buyers. But that's my personality, and we'll get into that personality in just a second. So the psychology of a listing. There's a proper way to prepare for a listing, and you need to treat listings like a story. And this is the biggest part that people miss. When you guys take listings, and I want this to be an interactive class, what's the first thing that you guys think of? Oh, I'm going to take a listing. What do I got to do?
Presentation.
Presentation. What's something else that you think of?
Check on the price.
Comps, right there.
Yeah.
You get a little Sasquatch. Yeah, and you get a little Sasquatch.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to try to make this fun and interactive, and we'll talk about branding and things like Sasquatch my legal name, Sasquatch, I forgot to tell you guys that. That's a whole nother story. This is part of my branding, part of my team's branding. Everybody has individual branding that they do. But yes, most people just think a listing is, I got to get there, I got to run comps, I got to show them what's at. That's all there is to it. That is not. That is 3% of what a listing is. And you have to treat a listing like it's a story. A listing has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's not what you typically think a beginning, middle, and end is on a story on a listing. The comps come in here right in the middle, and we'll discuss that in just a few minutes. The beginning is the most important part of a listing, okay? And it's long before you get to the comps. Let's discuss how we approach the listing client, the beginning. I feel this is the most important part. How do we approach the beginning? Well, it's actually, and I'm going through this fairly quick right here, just because we're going to get into a lot. It's definition of profiling. When you guys think of profiling, you guys probably think bad things when it comes to police, comes to race, comes to economic status, pulling people over on the side of the road, targeting people. That's not what profiling is. This is the actual definition to profiling. The act or process of exploiting information about a person. If you're not exploiting information, extrapolating, thank you, Jeff. Man, he's already fishing for a Sasquatch. Extrapolating information about a person. If you're not trying to do this in your pre-program, and this is what we're going to discuss right here because it's the most important part of the listing, is getting information from people from the very beginning. Profiling is not a bad word. Most people associate profiling as something as being bad. It's not bad. We're trying to extrapolate that information that we can find out to where we can get to the sales portion of the presentation. Now, we're going to talk about this page in detail. This is probably going to be a good 20-minute page right here for you guys. When I approach a listing, and I'm not talking about SOI, I'm talking about when I'm making calls, when I'm talking to people on the phone and I know nothing about people. Your SOI you have to treat in a completely different way. You already know them, you already know what they're about. More than likely they're already sold to what you're doing or they wouldn't be calling you anyway. These are straight cold calls of people. There are several items that I want to know about a person. And how I find out about that is mostly through social media and background investigation. I know that you guys think that's strange. I see some looks in some of your eyes. Wow, you're doing a background investigation on your clients before that happens? Absolutely. What's the typical sales price? What's a medium sales price right now for a home?
330, I think.
Yeah, around 330,000. And if your price for your commission, because we don't discuss commissions in here, if your price is 3% to take a listing, that's about $10,000, isn't it? I look at every listing as a $10,000 bill lying on the floor. So you guys need to take that attitude of that's $10,000 that's lying on the floor that I need to pick up. How many of you are investing money and time into picking up that $10,000 bill? That's the question. And that's what this process in the beginning is about. How are you spending your time during the day? A lot of people walk by my office, it's very visible right there, and they come by and they see me jacking around on the computer and they say, well, oh, he's just playing on Facebook. He's just doing this. No, I'm working. How am I working? What am I looking for? How am I finding that information? I'm going to get, come on in, it's okay. How are you guys finding this information? Well, we're going to start out with social media first. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all social media aspects. You should, at the very beginning, from the tax records and knowing your property, know who the owner of the property is, correct? You got their full name. All that information is readily available through the county commissioner's office and through the tax assessor's office. And you can find out that information. You should have that. And maybe you should already have a phone number. Should you already have an email address from them before you're going? All of this is vital information that you can data mine from the system to learn more about your clients before you even get into the front door. Anybody have any questions about this process? We're going to go in deeper, but I see some of your all's wheels thinking. I want this to be very interactive from you guys. I want you guys to ask me questions as much as you want. Go ahead.
How do you do a background investigation?
This is part of it.
Oh.
Now, when you think of background investigations, you're thinking criminal.
Yeah.
Stop thinking criminal. A background investigation, I used to do investigations on people, hiring investigations for people to get hired. Has nothing to do about their criminal background. Has to do about getting to know them as a potential employee, and you're getting to know these people as a potential client. You may find out something about these people that you don't want to work with these people. Do I work with everybody? No. I told 2 people last week, I'm not your listing agent. I'm not your guy. There are reasons I told them that didn't have anything to do with the background. It had to do with how they valued my business. They asked me to work for them, but I chose not to work for them. You guys need to be making those choices as well. Not everybody's a good fit for somebody. But what did I do? What did I do with one of those 2 people? Picked up the phone. I called up another agent and said, this may be somebody you might want to work with. They are not a good fit for me. Stefan, glad to see you. Everybody, Stefan Smith back there is a new agent in our office. I want to sing his praises a little bit. It's his first time he's ever walked into the Southwest office. And Stefan comes to us from RE/MAX, and he is a fellow NV Nevada State Leadership graduate with me, and he's part of Vandana Balla's team, and I'm thrilled to death that he's here. And it shows me value that he's known me for a long time. He always known me a long time, and that people have known me, that they see value in the information I get, and they still come and see me. So, Stefan, thanks for coming out, man. Welcome to Signature, and welcome to the Southwest.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So when we talk about background on people, you need to know as much as you need to know before you get there, and I'm going to tell you why. Let's just use this for instance. Do you think that you would have an advantage over another listing agent or another agent coming into that house because if you're one of many, which many times we are one of many, if you knew what football team they liked, would that be an advantage?
Yes.
If you knew where their kids went to school, is that an advantage? If you knew where their hometown was from, is that an advantage? Go ahead.
Wouldn't they be kind of creeped out? Like, how do you know this stuff about me?
It's not creeped out. We're not using it. We're going to be able to respond to their questions, and I'm going to tell you how we do that. I don't attack them with their own information. You need to learn, and we're going to get to some books on psychology at the very end of sales. I understand where you're coming from, and that's where most people, that's usually a natural response from people. Aren't they being creeped out? I'm only banking the information. I'm not hitting them with the information. There's a big difference. But if I show up and they're an Alabama fan, and if you don't think I don't have a closet full of different sports clothes, and I'm walking into the listing appointment wearing a big A on my shirt, not for an adulterer, but that's scarlet letter. If I walk in with an Alabama shirt, psychologically, do they like me better already?
Yeah.
If I have a cowboy sticker, and this is not disingenuous, I want the sale, okay? I could be a temporary Alabama fan. I hate Alabama. I'm sorry. I have family. Actually, my nephew coaches for LSU and one for Alabama. I'm not a fan. That's a big family fight. And actually, if you have some families, speaking of Alabama, and there's one in Auburn, you're probably going to have a split in that family anyway. You better have a second shirt in the back of the car, because the wife may have gone to Auburn and the husband may have gone to Alabama. You better be able to know how to respond to that question. But you need to find out as much information about the person, because you're going to use that information in a subtle way to increase your likability with them. And everything about sales is likability. If you walk into Best Buy, or I wouldn't say Best Buy, any commission-related business, let's use a car dealership, for example. Are you gravitated towards a certain car deal, a certain person after they attack you, and they come out at you, and that's a listing appointment? How many listing agents are coming at you when you walk onto the lot, and the theoretical lot here is their home? Okay. How many of those people are walking out to you because their sales manager inside, sorry, not me, said, go get that sale? Same thing, same thing with real estate, but you're going to gravitate your personality to somebody on that lot. In a listing appointment, you're going to differentiate yourself, and you're going to gravitate your personality to whoever you like the most. And he who has the most information and can use that in the right way is going to get that listing appointment. And I'm telling you, I get 70 to 80% of all the listings I go on. And it doesn't matter who I go against. Doesn't matter. And there are a handful of select listing agents in this town. There's a top 250 list. Does everybody know that the title companies put out top list of top agents in this town? Every quarter, there's a top 250 list of agents, and there's a top 100 list of offices here in town. He who does the most business. And those top 250 agents are very consistent. And it's funny, some of them don't even swap numbers quarter to quarter. When I was the manager of the Northwest office, my business partner, and Kiala could tell you, because Kiala was one of the first hires we had in the Northwest office, we used to go over those numbers. How hard did we chase those numbers, Kiala?
Good.
Yeah, it was a kind of a bragging point, wasn't it? I didn't like to brag, but it was. We don't want to lose ground, and those agents who are doing that business, they're not about going to 100 appointments and only getting 3 of them. They're about going to their appointments and getting every single one of them. And I like going against them. And this is what's going to differentiate ourselves. And we're going to go through this beginning, middle, and end, because those top 100 agents are really doing all the same presentations, meaning they all kind of look alike as far as how they dress, how they act, their marketing, stuff like that. So this is what differentiates them and their likability and how they're able to sell themselves. So when you go, we'll cover this. When you guys are going to listing appointments, in the beginning, and this is the middle, we're going to go back to since we're here, we're going to go back to the beginning, but we're going to skip to the middle. Are you using items like this? Or are you just going in with a plain folder on your listing and presentations? Because the top listing agents in town, they have customized marketing. This is branded specifically to my team, and I'm not here to sell my team. I'm not here looking for a team member. I'm here as your sales manager. I'm just using my marketing to teach you guys, okay? This is branded to Signature and branded to my team. It has a business card slot that goes here, rebranding here. When I go in, I want to use something like this. The majority of you agents are taking advertising material or your listings or what you look like that's on a clear, plain piece of paper. I didn't want to embarrass any agents, so I used a new home. Sorry, D.R. Horton, your marketing's horrible. This is what most of you guys are taking into your listing appointments. I don't care if my listings are $50,000 condos or $1 million homes. Everything's going to look like a $1 million home. Okay? This is the $1 million home that I just sold last week. It's on thick cardstock. It has inserts. It tells about the property. I don't do my own photography. Remember I talked about that $10,000 bill? How much was this bill? What do you?
Couple hundred.
No, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about how much is a $1.1 million property? What's the typical commission? And we don't say typical. $30-some thousand. Okay? $30-some thousand. Am I going to spend $200 on a listing, pre-listing, and information to pick up a $30,000 bill? Absolutely, every single time. But it goes much deeper than that. Am I going to do the same thing on a $50,000 listing? Yes or no?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. You're saying no. Why? Does anybody know why I do the same for a $50,000 listing as I do for a $1 million listing?
You don't know who else they know too.
Exactly. What if it's an investor? And what if one of those top 100 agents are using my work product? And this is why when you're on my team, I ask you to do the same thing. Your work product can be used against you. Is that ethical? Absolutely. It's your work product. If I go into a listing appointment, and I'm just going to use Kiala because I know him, he knows I'm not picking on him, and I know he has a subpar work product, and I go in with my laptop in a listing appointment, I'm going to show them, if I know, one of the questions I ask is, who all are you interviewing? If they're telling me they're interviewing myself, Jillian Batchelor, and Pete Torciello, I'm probably not talking about Pete Torciello and Jillian Batchelor. Their work product's going to be the same, okay? They're top listing agents here in this town. Or Chris Patrick, same thing. Chris is part of the same group. He's right there. He's one of our own. We have others in our organization, same way. But if I know Kiala's work product, which it's not, he has a great work product, by the way. If I know his work product is subpar, and I go in with my $50,000 listing, tucked in here, I go in here with my comp, I go in here with the rest of my information, giveaways, free comedy club tickets. If you're not working outside the business, we'll cover this. Discounts on meat companies, whatever you can get with other businesses to where they're offering value to other people. Slide that in there, as well as reviews. I have reviews from some entertainers in town, thanks to Jeff Moltz, who's on my team, that is in the entertainment business, and I've worked with his people before. If you're not including those and it doesn't look quality, you're missing the bar. But if I show that versus Kiala's work product, and I pull up on the computer and say, this is what his listings look like. This is his $50,000 listing. These are the pictures. This is my $50,000 home. These are my pictures. This is what I do for every single product that I do. And I show them, I'm not bad-mouthing Kiala, I'm just saying, who would you rather use, me or them? So yes, be consistent. I'm doing the same thing. Now, on the $50,000 listings, I'm not sending a new home listing packet out to the top 25 agents in town. By the way, on that $1 million listing, I made sure I made packets, and I made sure that the top buyers agents here in town got a copy of that packet to know that not only is this on the market, it's sitting on your desk, and when you have a buyer that's coming to town, I want my product to be the first thing that they see. What's the average life of $1 million plus listing on the market right now? How long does it take to sell?
Year.
Yeah, 6 months to a year, if you're lucky. The market's shifting right now, and it's much quicker because we do have a lot of California money coming in from wildfires, insurance claims, and people just trying to escape California. And actually, that market's picking up very quickly. But I was completely surprised that this one sold that quick. But then again, I put this person into a $1.2 million home in Queensridge, or not Queensridge, One Queensridge Place, and that had only been on the market for 20 days. So the market's moving right now, people. The market's moving fast. And the people that are in here that are interested in learning and getting knowledge, you're the ones that are going to be having business for the first quarter of 2021. But let's go back to the beginning here. I'm sorry I get off topic, and when it's been a long time since I've taught, so bear with me on my jumping around. What is Pipple? What has been verified? And what are the pre-listing tools that I use? Everybody knows social media. Everybody knows how to search people on social media. Pipple is a service I use. It's pipl.com. You can enter basic information. It is a paid service, and so has been verified a paid service. But you can find out individual information on individuals, non-criminal related. If you wanted criminal related, then that's my background. You can find that stuff out too for an extra charge. I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm saying this is for me because of the way I use it. And when we get into some books and some knowledge at the end of this may be some routes that you might want to take as you advance your learning knowledge of the listing process. And as you become more comfortable doing more and more listings, these are the tools and things that I would invest in if I was you. So getting back to the profiling portion of the beginning, the reason I say this is the most important is for the reasons, and I apologize, I'm brain dead. What's your name again?
Me?
Yeah.
Lisa Cook.
Yeah, Lisa. I'm sorry, Lisa. I should know. I get totally, if you look at the dark circles under my eyes, the sleep has been few and far between the past 3 months. But as Lisa said, yes, this is the creepy part, but this is the knowledge that you use and the knowledge that you get to basically make friends, create connections with the people that you're selling to. Most people have to have a visceral connection. It's been done since it's in our DNA. I was talking to Chris Bishop and Brandon about this presentation yesterday. Sales and getting what we want go back to that it goes back to Adam and Eve. It goes back to man, very existence, and it's inherent into our system. We do business, we date, we deal with people, how we feel about them. There's no changing it. The only way to change it is to become likable, and this is all about likability. Now, when you're talking about kids in schools, why do I use that information? If you're not asking, what's the number one question you should ask before price when you're in a listing appointment? What should you be asking your sellers before you even discuss anything?
What do they think their house is worth?
No, not what they're, go ahead,
Where are
Maria.
they going next?
Not where they're going next, but that is a follow-up question. Maria, I couldn't hear what you
Why
said.
they're selling in the first place? Why
She says buying or selling in the first place. No, not really. Go ahead.
Their time frame.
Once again, exactly why. What's your motivation? So the camera picks up, or the people out there listening. What's your motivation for leaving? If you find out their motivation for leaving, can the price change on the house? Can your comps change on the house? Absolutely. If it's a divorce, do you think they're more motivated or less motivated to sell? If somebody died and they need to get somewhere else. If they have gambling debts in this town and they need to pay their bookie or they need to pay their markers off. These are things you guys are not thinking. This is the holistic view of looking as to why now are you discussing, oh, you're gambling too much? No. Do they even talk about, I have had somebody in a listing point, well, you know what, I got to sell my house, I'm in a little too deep. Well, how quick do you need to sell it before somebody comes and breaks your arm? That doesn't come up, that's a 1 in a million question, but it's a motivation. Can that affect, you can tell them, all right, this is what your house is worth. This is the quick sell value. If it's much cheaper, if you need to go quicker, but this is the actual value of your house. And if you want to hold out for that, that's fine. And if you want to be greedy and it's going to go slower and you're asking for more because this is fine too, but that's all motivation. So when you look at social media accounts, I'm not talking about being creepy, but if they're showing pictures of them at a specific church all the time, do certain ethnic groups only want to deal with certain ethnic groups? Absolutely. Do certain religious groups only want to deal with certain people who have certain religious affiliations? Absolutely. Are you wasting your time? Are you there really just churning your wheels just because they want to hear what somebody else has to say? These are all aspects that now, I'm not telling you not to go for those. I'm telling you go for them every single time. And if the more you learn, I'm just saying these are the bits and pieces of information that you need to go so you can have knowledge at the middle of the listing and at the end of the listing because it has a life. So that's the reason I say the beginning portion is very important. Everybody kind of understand that? I'm seeing lots of head nods and everything. Anybody have any questions? I'm not saying we're using all that information. I'm saying it's a tool to learn. And by the way, it also helps you formulate objection handling. from this information, and this is not something that can be learned in an hour and a half, from the information you find out here, you may be able to pre-plan your objection handling. How many of you, and Scott, I know you're brand new and there's a couple other brand new here, how many of you are practicing objection handling on a weekly basis? Tyson, I know you are part of your coaching group.
Yeah.
Part of their coaching group. I know some people, if you're not learning objection handling and keeping that going, and it should come freely, you better be finding somebody, a coach, a team leader, a book. You better be learning that, or you're never going to increase your sales. Whether it's buyers or sellers, you're never going to increase. You got to practice that on a weekly basis. And Scott, objection handling is just because I want you to understand, Phil, I'm not picking on you. Just somebody tells you something, well, I'm not going to do it because of this, or what about this? You're going to have an answer to answer that pushes them in the direction of why they are or aren't, okay? You got to be practicing that on a weekly basis. Middle. The meeting in the middle, this is your listing presentation. What should you do when you arrive? How should you dress? What does your marketing look like? Remember I told you we're all going to discuss that. What should you take with you? So let's talk about these things. Somebody, Cal, what's your listing presentation look like? You know what, I picked on you enough. Tanya, what's your listing presentation look like?
Just really the comps of the house and the listing agreement.
Okay, that's it? That's all you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Is it working?
Nope.
Okay.
So that brochure that you showed, you bring that with you?
Absolutely.
How do you have those pictures of the?
This is not of their house.
Oh.
So if you never sold a house, okay, and I'm not saying you have or you haven't, you're going to have a book of business, and you're going to have to build on that book of business to create those items.
So you bring that on another listing that you.
Absolutely. I'm showing them what my work product looks like now and what it will look like for them, and I'm showing them it's no difference if it's 50,000 or $1 million. I'm treating you the same. Now, marketing dollars may be different, and I don't discuss that with them, but how the general house is going to look, I tell them, I'm not taking pictures. I'm not a photographer. I'm not an artsy guy. I have a guy that knows how to do that, and this is what his work product looks like. And by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we're going to walk around your house, and we're going to discuss how to make your house look like this. And we're going to go through that in a listing presentation. As briefly, I know Stefan back there's heard because he's part of the same leadership group that I was part of. He always heard it because, and some of my team members in here, everybody know what the CAPE process is? If you're not practicing the CAPE process in a listing presentation, you're missing the boat. And we'll go over that real briefly. It's going to blow your mind of how it sets apart what's their responsibility and what's your responsibility in the listing itself.
I use that.
Yeah. Was that one of the most valuable things you've ever learned in real estate?
Yeah.
And I taught you that 5 years ago, didn't I? Yeah, I taught him that and I still use it today. I can close my eyes and preach just like I can preach a script on a phone script. If you're not this comfortable with your scripts and your presentation, Adrian can tell you this because he's on my team. My favorite phone calls. Hi, my name's Andrew Lunsford with Signature Real Estate Group. I'm very aggressive about finding new business. Do you know anybody that's looking to buy or sell real estate in the next 6 to 12 months? Does that come off pretty like I've said it a million times? Yours should be coming off the same way in every presentation you do. Maybe not that monotone for the camera, maybe nicer, maybe softer, friendlier. But even if there's an objection, no, I don't. You think I have an answer for that? You think it comes just as quickly? Yes. Do you think I have a way to walk them down, I call it the primrose path, to get them to where I need them to be? Or at least to have, what did we talk about over here? Oops. What was the definition of profiling?
Extrapolate.
Of extract. Do you think I don't have an answer to extrapolate information from them, cell phone, email address, friends and family that may be moving, are they renters, how long have they been there. Most people, if you do things the right way, will give you the information you need. Back to my background. Why do I know this? FBI Academy. What did I do for the Virginia State Police? I worked for the governor's office of Virginia. I was a Virginia State Trooper. I worked the road for almost 10 years, but the last 2 years of my career, I spent in direct contact with Governor George Allen and his family, who used to be Senator Allen. As a bodyguard of the governor of Virginia, we had to go through Quantico and go through the Secret Service training on how to become basically a Secret Service agent for the governor. How many people do you think tried to get to the governor to ask them questions because they made political donations?
Lots.
How many people do you think I had to say, no, you can't see him, and make them go away smiling and continue to donate money?
Everyone.
Every single one. If you don't have that ability, you don't last on that detail. Everybody wants something from somebody. I want something here. I want to extrapolate information from you. The books I'm going to give you at the end to read, if you read these books and you make them part of your life, and I'll be offering classes on going through those books later, you will learn this information. So once again, on the phones, when I'm doing that, I'm extrapolating information. It's not a bad thing. It's how you're going to do business. Everybody in here making $50,000 a year? You don't answer. This is a a rhetorical question. If you're going to get to the $250, $300, $500,000 level, or $500,000 level of doing business, you're going to have to put these principles in place. Okay? Like it or not like it. If you don't like it, fine. Just don't do it. Just be satisfied with where you're at. But I bet the reason most of you are here, I know Stefan does a lot of business because we work together. I know Kiawa does business because we've worked together, because we've been parts of leadership groups and learning and process. If he didn't think there was something valuable to learn, he wouldn't be wasting his time here. He would be putting his time somewhere else. But I guarantee you, if there's 2 people that are in this classroom that I know they'll probably go grab these books that I talk about and read them, it's probably these 2 guys. And in real estate, really, there's an unwritten rule. You can have a team, you can do everything, you can share people all the information you share, but only about 5 or 10% of the people are going to pick it up and use it and run with it. Those people who do become more successful. Those who don't, it's just free crumble cookies and pizza. It's just a way to kill a fry. Okay. So back to the middle. We're talking about your all's listing presentations. What should you do when you arrive? I want to cover this one very briefly. Do you think that when I get to a home on my listing presentation and I ring the doorbell and they say, "Hey Sasquatch, come on inside," what do you think I do? Anybody want to guess what's the first thing I do?
Tell them to view the house.
Yes. Sometimes no.
Well, was that?
You take a look around the
I
house.
know the question, I didn't hear it.
Okay. Yeah, and actually Brandon for the microphone asked me to speak up, and her question was, her answer to my question was, tell them they have a beautiful house.
Okay.
Yes and no. The first thing I do is I set a tone for the meeting. And that tone is, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller," and I would use this. This is a canned response. It doesn't matter even if it's my SOI that I do it, unless there's hugs and kisses involved and all that stuff. Sometimes when it's SOI, those things are part of it. Just don't trip over the cord, sweetie. No, you're fine. The first thing I do is I have a very A to Z process that I do, and I do it for everybody. The first thing I do is say, before we get into everything, and Adrian can tell you this because I went on a listing appointment with him not long ago, is I say, let me take a look at your house. Give me about 15, 20 minutes. You can follow along if you want to. That's fine. But let me study and look over what extras you have, what damage you may have, and we'll talk about everything later. And then most of the time they don't follow along, and I do get to go make notes, size of tile, are they upgraded cabinets? Do they have a water softener outside? Is there an epoxy floor? Is there a sink in the bathroom or a sink in the laundry room? Is it a separate laundry room? What kind of laundry devices do they have? Is there overhead storage in the garage? Are there garage door openers on all 3 garages or just one? Any piece of information, and I do a plus and minus column right there. This is a positive, this is a negative. Because I'm going to discuss those positives and negatives, maybe, maybe not. But I want to have that information available if they're too high in their expectations and price or too low in their expectations and price. So I'm taking 15 minutes or so of my time before we even get started. And I tell them, hey, I'm not a Class A contractor. I use this to help develop what I think will increase or decrease the value of your house. That's it. So that's the first thing I do. I don't go to the table, but most listing agents, when they go in, the first thing they do is they just go in and they discuss value of the house. Did you have a question? I'm sorry. They just want to discuss value of the house. What else am I doing when I'm in the house and doing this? Adrian, you know the answer to this question because we went over it in the listing presentation. What else have I taught you that I'm doing? It's almost part of the pre-process as well.
Well, I know you are sizing them up as well when you're doing this.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking for affiliations on the wall. I'm looking for, are they a captain in the military that I didn't pick up on? Are they a pilot? Are they a police officer? Are they a nurse? Everybody has personal items in the home. Are they Mormon? Are they Satan worshipers? Do they like drugs? Do they not like drugs? What's laying in the house? Are there guns laying in the house? Are there dangers in the house? I went to a listing appointment yesterday that I took, but I told the people yesterday that I'm not going to sell their house until they're moved out. Why? They had guns laying in the house, items of danger, okay? I don't know what else, but that's just what I saw in plain view. Now, granted, the guy's a security guard, okay, but he's single. Do you want a child coming in an appointment where this guy's not responsible enough to lock up his weapons? You know, I don't want to be the listing agent that says, hey, I approved a showing and somebody came over there with a kid and they weren't watching the kid. Same thing with the swimming pool. If it doesn't have a gate, there's many dangers in a house, but I want to make sure that it's best for me. Plus the house was messy. It's going to be better if he's gone anyway for pictures and everything else. And you just got to be honest with people. And when I sit down and talk with him, he's like, I want this house on the market today. I'm not your guy. If you want it on the market today, I'm not your guy. So what do you mean? Let's have an honest conversation about what you got going on here. Do you understand what I'm talking about? He's like, yeah, I do. Nobody's told me that. Everybody's told me they could have it on the market tomorrow. All right. Well, who do you want to use, them or me? Who's protecting your interest? Is it our job as realtors to protect their best interest? I think so. You know, should we be more than just about price? Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're there to reach their objectives, but I don't want to get sued. Do you got anybody here want to get sued? If you want to get sued, I don't want to deal with you. Yeah. If you want to get sued, I certainly wouldn't want you on my team because I don't need the hassle, you know. So we pay attention to those type things. And I got the listing over 2 other listing agents because they told him what he wanted to hear. Sometimes being honest to people is what they need to hear. Not everybody wants a yes man. My wife wants a yes man, and I am a yes man to her, but I pick and choose my battles, okay? So that's what I do when I run. How should you dress? There's many opinions on this. I'm going to give you the FBI's opinion on this, the Secret Service's opinion on this. How many of you guys, and most of you see me around the office, how often do you guys see me dressed up?
Never.
Almost never. I'm usually in tennis shoes, t-shirts, jeans, shirts. But when I go to $1 million appointment, do I look different? Yes. So the rule of thumb in the FBI and the Secret Service is you dress as your crowd dresses. You look as they look. If I'm going into Providence, I'm probably going in jeans and a polo shirt. If I'm going into Sun City Summerlin, I'm probably in retirement attire. I'm probably in shorts and pulling up, if I can find one, pulling up in the golf cart and, probably have a certain political sign, I'm kidding, on. And a couple of things I never get involved in, try to stay away from is politics and religion and listings and any sales. These books will tell you that as well. It's just topics to avoid. You're going to alienate 50% of your business no matter which side you're on. I want 100% of the business all the time. So I'm going to dress how they dress. Once again, does this right here give me information from that pre-listing information? Am I learning about their habits, those creepy things? But if I see how they dress and how they act, that's probably how I'm going to dress. That goes back to the Alabama attire, the Cowboys attire, the Marine Corps. It's not disingenuous, but those. Remember, I talked about the DNA and psychology of each person. They're called. Do you know what they're called in the brain? Anybody? Big Sasquatch. If anybody knows what they're called, and actually somebody even gets close.
What is the reticular activated?
Holy no! You've learned that from me before. Did I teach you that?
Possibly. I've also heard it from Aaron.
That's exactly what it's called. It's called the reticular. Golly, Tyson. Man, you chip off the old block. I didn't know, because I don't tell that to very many people. That's exactly what it's called. Reticular activators in the brain. You're doing things that, and I want that back from you, by the way. You have too much. Here, swap with me. You get a keychain. You don't get a big one. It's in there. It's in your DNA. Reticular activators. When they see that, you're not talking about it. We're taking the creepy aspect out of it. But they may ask me if I'm wearing a Raiders shirt and they're a Raiders fan. Wow, did you see them beat Kansas City? Can you believe that Derek Carr did that the other day? Can you believe our defense did that? I didn't watch the game, but I'm probably going to know about that. And I'm probably going to be able to respond to that. That's learning to engage with somebody and have them like me without being creepy. Okay?
Yeah, now that you said that, I saw that in action when we were about to leave on that appointment, and you said to my client, said, "Oh, you're a pilot." And she's like, "Yeah." And then you immediately talked about this article that you read, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I saw that too." And then, just started bouncing off each other, and I'm like,
yeah, I think in that particular appointment we talked about Frontier Airlines doing $7 or $9 fares or something. But I found out this was Adrian's client, by the way. Full disclosure, Adrian's on my team. So when I have new team members, I go out and coach them on how to do things and things, and that's something he picked up on. We already had the listing locked up. But why did I do that for Adrian? Why did I mention pilot and get those things? Because she lives in a neighborhood, and what's she going to do? She's going to talk to people. And Adrian went on another appointment by himself in that same neighborhood. She's got to talk to her neighbors. This guy is so good. How quick did you sell that house? How many days?
3.
When are we closing on it?
The 30th.
Hallelujah, I need cash. No, but these are the things that you want to do. Common ground. And if you can write that down, always find common ground with people. So we've covered how should we dress. What does your marketing look like? We've already talked about marketing, how important it is to look good. If you want to be a better listing agent, spend cash on looking better. And I'm not talking about dress, I'm not talking about cars. I love going against a certain realtor here in town that drives a Bentley. They drive up in a Bentley, and I love going behind them and coming up in a pickup truck. Most people think we get paid too much already. Do you think if you show up in a Bentley and they show up, do you think that they're already thinking, man, this guy makes too much money? Or if I show up regular Joe, the reticular activators is, this guy's a hustler.
You're going to work hard.
He's going to work hard for me, exactly. Good.
So
I'm glad you're picking up what I'm laying down. Yeah, I'm working harder. But it's important to look that our work product looks good, okay? What should you take? I normally take, if I'm by myself, an iPad for when those questions of what does my marketing look like online, what else am I doing online, and if I'm comparing my work to somebody else's work, I want to be able to pull up the MLS. And by the way, here's another step further thing. If you're going to a listing appointment, are you looking up actives in the neighborhood, the same neighborhood? I'm looking up 3 things. I'm looking up actives, under contract, and what sold recently. And I'm sharing all 3 of those. But what I'm also sharing with people is I'm hoping, oh man, every time I look it up in actives, I'm hoping to find one that's been on the market way too long and their marketing looks like crap, and I'm going to share the snot out of it because I want them to see what a bad agent does. We have 18,000 realtors in Nevada. How many of them are doing business the right way? Sadly, not many. I'm very fortunate to be part of a group here at Signature, and I'm not just saying this, I've worked for other companies here in town. Signature its management ownership has a desire that you guys do things the right way, and they're making efforts every single day to put things in motion to where you guys look better, act better, and do better than everybody else. And for a company like this, I'm just tickled, and I have no ownership in it. I used to have an office. I have no ownership. I mean, I get nothing extra for being up here. But Brandon has a desire, and Mike has a desire of pulling people on board to show you guys what it takes to be extra, what it takes to do more at essentially no cost to you. What time is it, y'all? I want to make sure we stay on schedule.
10:50.
Okay, so we still got a good hour. And Brandon wanted us to go all the way through. I cut this down from 3 hours to 2 hours so we could go all the way through without having to break for cameras, and we could get this out to the masses. Another thing that once again shows how much they care. They want this going out to the masses, not just you guys. They spend extra money in audio-visual and technology to where, it looks like we got 30 or so people in here just right at the amount that we need to have for social distancing, and everybody's spaced out really well, and I'm way back away. But they want to make sure that all of our agents have the access to this. The problem is only 10% of the agents are probably going to use this stuff. If you use it, what happens to Signature when it's a 100% company? What happens to this company when you use this information? You become better. You have more sales, right? What happens to Signature when you have more sales? They make more money. They make more money on transaction fees. So is it important to have agents out there that are doing lots of business? Absolutely, it's in their best interest. Anybody can just sit back and collect a fee, but you're not going to grow and you're not going to do things if agents aren't getting better. They have a desire for you guys to get better every single day. I'm off my soapbox. I'm not going to preach Brandon, even though he owes me money. He does. I'm kidding. What should you take? Once again, we're going to go over this real quick. I'm taking my iPad. I'm taking my marketing material. I'm looking good. And by the way, once you get this stuff down in masses, the things that I'm putting in, the devil's in the detail. It's not the cost. If I give somebody a Sasquatch when I go in, $5, $5 or $6. Keychain, $1. This cup, 50 cents. I've got less than $15 in the presentation, but I have to do it in masses. Okay, I have to order 300 Sasquatches at a time. I have to order 2,000 cups at a time. I have to order 500 keychains. It's an investment. Once you get going, make sure you're setting aside money in your business to make that investment in your business so it can exponentially grow. Okay? Most realtors live paycheck to paycheck. I've been there. I've done that. I know that. But once you start getting little bits of success, plan for that success. Okay? So is it okay for me to give out lots of these packets? Adrian, have I ever told you not to, or Jeff, have I ever told either one of you not to grab what you need?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. In fact, give it to us more.
Yeah, because the more they give, the more I give them, or the more, just like Brandon's theory, the more I provide, the more I do, the more success they have, the better it is for me. Okay? Now, I don't pay for everything. I want you to have skin in the game too. And that's why I'm saying in your business, have skin in your own game to where you can do your own thing. Okay? I don't even put agents, their closings underneath my name. It's important that you differentiate yourself from everybody else. It's okay to be a part of a team and use it as a crutch as your beginning agent to where you can learn, but you also got to make investments in yourself. So I take my comps and I sit down and talk about those. And since we still have an hour left, how to handle objections. I'm going to do a whole series on objections through a book, but it's going to be part of a coaching class. Objections to me, most agents find them scary. I find them intriguing. When's the last time anybody in here had their first kiss? For the guys in here, I'm not going to embarrass the girls. You guys used to get nervous about when you date a girl and you're a teenager. There's always that anxiousness of the first kiss. I had a fraternity brother in college. I'll tell the story. His name's William David Otto Smith III. That's his real name. And I was at a bar one night and probably had one too many drinks and had this really good-looking girl. And not me. I was back then used to say I was pining for her. You know, I was longing for her or whatever. I wanted to be with her. He came up to me, and my fraternity name in college was not Sasquatch. It was actually Lumpy. And he said, "Lumpy, what's wrong?" I said, "I asked that girl to dance," and she said no. He said, "How many times did you ask her?" I said, "I asked her a couple of times." And he said, "She just blew you off." And he looked at her and he says, "I know what your problem is." And I'm like, "What's their problem?" He says, "You shouldn't be asking that girl to dance. You should be asking that girl to dance." And obviously there was a difference between one and the other. He says, "Now after she says yes, work your way up." And that's the same thing with the first kiss. You're always nervous about how it's going, but after that first kiss is done, it's over with. What I'm trying to say here is embrace that first kiss. When you learn how to handle objections, they don't become scary anymore. They become exciting because you get to steer somebody to where you want to be. If anybody in here is married, and some of you are, I know you are, I know Kiala's married, I know Steph is married, I know lots of people in here are married. A relationship on objection handling is what marriage and what relationships are about. Once you're able to steer somebody where you need to go without having to face the objection, you don't have to handle it anymore. Get that? That's what we're trying to learn, is how to steer people where we want to go. But when I get the objections, I'm able to get them back on track. So you've got to make this a big part of your business. You've got to make it, if you're serious about being a real estate professional, you have to take time to learn these things. But they're time consuming to learn. But we can help you with that. What are good techniques? Let's go back into the family atmosphere. Are pitch and inflection in speech very important? Super important. If I draw you inside, and unfortunately the microphone may not pick up, if I start talking softer, are you focusing more? Are you maybe wanting to know what I'm saying? Or if I'm loud and verbose, are you put off more? Most of the time, yes, but sometimes no. There are loud people and there are soft people. But one thing I learned when I had children, and my daughters are grown now, and I've never had the first disciplinary problem out of them, they're wonderful young ladies, is if you talk soft, especially to girls, they respond better. When we go back to the psychology of listening, this is really the psychology of sales. Sales is not all about just finding people, it's about how to handle people. So you have to learn who and how to talk to. And those things make a big difference in whether you're getting 10% of your listings or 70% of your listings. Or some guys out there, nobody bats 100, but there's guys out there batting 90, quite a bit. So those make a difference. How to handle objections. What are good techniques? We just talked about learning about those techniques. Those are important to learn. Once again, the books at the end we're going to cover. Comps, everybody in here except for Scott and anybody else is new should already know how to be running comps. We're going to talk about it very briefly right here, and then we're going to go into the cake process. Remember I told you, forgot something, you can tell what my wife wrote, what I wrote, broken hands. Prime example, right there. So when you're running comps, you should not just be running sold comps, but do make sure, and this is very rudimentary, everybody should already know this, make sure you're running apples to apples. The only time Jeff calls me, and I know when he calls because he only calls me once every couple of months or so, it's a problem because he can't run comps. He's like, "Boss, you know what I want?" And I'm like, "Oh crap, he's got some really snarky comps for me to run. It's gonna be bad." And they're usually expensive houses, and they're usually in the middle of the desert somewhere that there's not one thing around, and it's a pure guessing game. And majority of the time, you just got to get in and see the people, and you got to find out what their motivation is. It could be worth $1, it could be worth $10 million. You know, until you get inside and you learn that motivation and you get that idea on some properties, you just really can't give a value to. But we're lucky enough in Las Vegas that the majority of homes, there's a like kind and quality of the same exact home that sold recently, that except for the cabinets in it, or except for a sink, or except for flooring, or crappy paint, it's the same, okay? And you should be able to do that. But is it more important to run the sold comps, the pending comps, or the active comps? That's what 90% of the people think. I say it's different. Chris Bishop may say it's different. Brandon may say it's different, but I'm going to tell you why it's different to me. The active comps are more important. Why are the active comps more important?
Competition.
It's exactly. Look at Scotty, brand new. Look at Scotty, brand new, and saying, yeah, that's your competition. That's what you're up against. Would you rather be the highest in the market, the lowest in the market, or right in the middle? I say when you explain stuff to people, I tend to like to be in the top 75%. Nobody wants the worst. Some people don't want the best, but some people feel that there's value right there in that 75 percentile. Okay? House that I got under contract yesterday is in my neighborhood. The exact house in the neighborhood, there's only maybe 80 houses in this gated neighborhood that's in the southwest part of the valley. There's 2 other homes in the neighborhood, and I wasn't the most expensive. I wasn't too cheap. I was right there at 75 percentile. They looked at all. The buyer's agent is actually a realtor, and I asked her. She's buying the house for herself. I said, you know, you had 3 to choose from. They're all the same. The only thing's different is the backyards. Why'd you choose yours? She told me. It's not the most expensive, not the cheapest. It's right about where I wanted to be. So there's a psychology to that. So I think, now sometimes there's not going to be active comps. You go to sold and you do explain all 3. And I do call the unconditional or the under contract solds and try to, once again, extrapolate information from them to see where they're at. That's a tricky situation sometimes. That's one of those conversations you want to have with the listing agent. You know, honey gets more than anything else to kind of find out where they're at, to maybe try to help you. And there's also a danger in that too. If I call a listing agent up and say, hey, you have this under contract and I'm getting ready to sell XYZ house, I want to know where you're at. What's a smart listing agent going to do?
Call them.
Call them, drop them a packet by, say, I just sold this house. Hopefully their marketing looks good, and hopefully they sold it within 2 weeks. You may think that that's crappy. I think that that's a hustler, meaning I think it's good. So you got to be careful when you're calling that you're not telling them exactly what house, exactly where. You know, I have a house that's very similar to yours. You know, would you mind sharing some information of where you're at, and without endangering your seller? You know, house all the other buyers. And by the way, did you have multiple offers? If you had multiple offers, maybe if yours is solid, if you don't mind, would you let me know who those other agents are? Maybe I can call them and tell them about my house. Are you taking things to that next level? Because that's next level thinking. If they had multiple offers, maybe that buyer decided to get out of the market. They're not on a drip campaign, or they're not searching anymore. But if I call that listing agent and say, hey, that one just sold, and are you using a reverse prospect in your listings? If you've taken a listing, does everybody understand that there's a reverse prospecting in your MLS system that you can go to? It's a very big part of my business when I have a listing. Immediately when it hits the market, I'm calling the top 10, and I'm hoping that within 48 hours, somebody's saving my property as a favorite. If you're not calling the favorites, the realtor that's tied to that person who saved it as a favorite under the reverse prospecting, you're doing your listing client a disservice, because it's your job to find them a buyer, and you should be spending time looking for every avenue that you can find to find them a buyer. And more often than not, when I look at that, the realtor on the other end is just set up a drip campaign with somebody that's there, and they're not even aware, because they don't go back into their system and know that their client's even searching. and I say, hey, Kiala, you know, your client had this saved as a favorite. I'm going to send this over to you, to your email. Maybe you can find out what client it is and maybe give them a nudge. This may be a good sell for you because they like it. If I'm a buyer's agent, I'd probably like that phone call. Probably be pissed too because I'm too lazy to call my own people, but I'm basically doing their work for them. Everybody understand that? Any questions on that?
I have a story to share.
Sure.
So I took a listing.
Just speak up. Maybe take your mask off.
I took a listing, and it closes next week. And I also got the listing next door 2 days ago. So the people who put in an offer on the house, the first house, I called all their agents and told them I have the house next door. Do you still have a client? And I got an offer this morning.
Boom. Is he doing everything he could do to maximize what he's doing? He did. And he learned it from me. But he did. But these are the things that other agents aren't talking about. They're not doing. If you want to become the best, strive to be the best. That's what Signature's about. We want to do things better than everybody else. Go ahead.
Do you send out, after you sell a house, do you send out just sold?
So let me tell you what I did on this house.
Okay.
To me, it's a cost of doing business. I personally believe that doing a lot, unless you're sticking with something 3-4 months, postcards are not the best use. I'm not saying it's not a good thing to do. I'm just saying I don't think it's the best thing for me to do in my business. What I did in the neighborhood of this $1.1 million home, and by the way, that $1.1 million home is a complete anomaly in this neighborhood. This neighborhood is it's Marbella, Stefan. It's near where Stefan lives. That home's an anomaly in the neighborhood, meaning it's the best house in the neighborhood. Everything else is $500,000 to $700,000 in that neighborhood. This house should not be there. They paid Richmond $1.157 as a new home build. Who pays Richmond $1.157? You know, it's nuts. But somebody else wanted it, which is great for me. I pulled up the neighborhood, and there's only about 100 homes in that neighborhood. What I did was I eliminated any house that had been purchased there within the half year on the tax records. Completely took it out. I don't even want to talk to them. They're within a year, unless they're getting a divorce or somebody's dying, they're not selling. I tried to find the top 20 houses that were there, and what I did is I took this marketing in this envelope with this keychain with a letter attached to it and said, I just sold your neighbor's house, and I dropped it off to each house. And I got one more listing from them. So I think that's a better use of your time, is that you data mine your own or use your title companies to help you data mine. And that's the reason I say this job is a full-time job, and you see somebody sitting at their desk and they look like they're piddling. Well, if they're a top listing agent, they're probably not piddling. They're probably searching. You know, I think, and I work kind of I'm looking for an assistant right now. I kind of do all this stuff on my own, but I need to learn to delegate things too in my own business to where it's not so time consuming. But I think that's a better use of your time than just spending $500 and doing the neighborhood. Now, if you have a regular farm, a neighborhood that you're actively looking, postcards are good. But it's not a hit it and quit it thing. It is to me, it should be at least a 6-month marketing campaign, because 90% of those are going from the mailbox to the floorboard of the card or the trash can immediately. They're not looking till they're looking. That's the reason it's like throwing, it's a shotgun approach instead of a rifle approach. You're spraying and praying. But if you're going to spray and pray, you better spray a lot and pray. Mine was a rifled approach. It's much more accurate. So, but if you're farming in general, and we used to do it in our old brokerage in the Northwest, we spent about $3,000 a month just blanketing Providence. But we were brand new in the market, and we wanted to make sure everybody knew it, and it paid off. It paid off in a big way. But unless you have deep pockets, just like other things, I'm not a super big fan of it. I prefer a rifled approach as a shotgun approach. Everybody understand that? Any more questions on that? Yeah, go ahead. You need to speak up because the microphone's here.
Would you do that on a lower priced home similar?
Absolutely. Yeah. What's it cost me to do Kiowa? It cost you almost nothing to get that listing, did it?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, almost nothing. Once again, once I have my price point down, would I spend $200 to make $50 to $1,500? Yeah, I'll do it. Not as much, but once again, I try to treat every property the same. Maybe not marketing on the back end of it. You know, I'm not doing a video production for a $50,000 property, but I'm making my marketing look the same. The reason being I'm trying to make my marketing look the same is, number one, I'm doing a good service to my listing client. But number two, I don't want somebody to use my work product against me. If I do something different that looks cheaper and worse for this person, and I'm in a listing situation where I'm against two other top listing agents in town, and they find my work product is different, you think they're going to take my $1 million listing work product in there, or they're going to take my $50,000 crappy work product in there and use it against me? That's what I'm saying. Your work product makes you look better, or it can also hurt you. So make sure it looks good every single time. Don't cut corners. If you're a great photographer, fine. I know Jeff works in entertainment industry. He has very expensive cameras, and he takes pictures for rock stars and movie stars almost every day of his life. He knows how to work a camera. I don't know how to work a camera. I'm not using my iPhone to go out there and take pictures and stuff. Adrian, do I ask you on the team to use a professional photographer?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think it's valuable to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You couldn't do the same thing that Joe does, could you? You could if you put time and effort and money into it, but Joe's a professional photographer. This is what he does. So that's where we go. So let's go over, because we only have about half an hour or so left, let's go over CAPE. So I'm going to skip through. What do we leave behind? I leave behind the comps and the marketing. I've already made an impression on them, and we'll go to follow-up after we go to CAPE. But I'm going to skip over. What's CAPE? What is this method? This is a listing method that I use. Once again, I told you I forgot to put it in there. I told you my handwriting, quick handwriting is going to be much different. What's CAPE? Kiawa, you know it. Stefan, you know it. I think you and your team may know it. But CAPE is where, when I'm sitting down at the table with them and I've gone through all the other processes I've explained to you guys about, this is how I set expectations with my listing clients. And it's a very simple method that you can use every single time to set expectations between you and them, and most listing agents are using this. Anybody have an idea of what C stands for? Go ahead.
Condition.
Have you been in one of my classes? Yeah, you cheater. She's been in one of my post-licensing classes, and I teach this to my post-licensing class. Yes. C is condition. We'll go over it. And remember I told you when I'm walking through the house, I'm noting pluses and minuses on the house, on condition, what it looks like, those things. That's what I'm talking about there. But also I'm setting an expectation with the seller saying, we've taken pictures of your house. It looks this good now. This is what it looks like. But when I set an appointment for you, and all of my listings, unless it's a vacant, cheaper listing or by appointment only, and why do I want it by appointment only? Is because I want to have the ability to talk to that buyer's agent and tell them anything unique about the property before they even go see it. Okay? Once again, I think key any is a spray it and pray it method. If I do key any, vacant key any, even though it is vacant key any, do I get an opportunity to talk to the buyer's agent? Do I get an opportunity to find out what their buyer's motivation is? Do I get an opportunity to find out if they're pre-approved? Do I get an opportunity to explain to them that, hey, there's an old sink there that's being replaced this week. It's going to be porcelain instead of stainless steel and crappy. I get the opportunity to pitch and sell that property to make that property stand out. Okay? I want the opportunity to make sure that I look better than everything else is on the market, and that I give them encouragement, and I'm talking to them like honey to get them to come around to my way of thinking on price, my way of thinking on why mine's better, and my way of thinking that Sasquatch is the best listing agent to work with because he's not going to cause you any problems. He just has the desire to get the deal done. I'm pitching myself to them. Your sales job is just as much to the other agent as it is to your clients. You have to get them to like you. But on condition, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when somebody comes to see your property, I want it to look nice. Is that a me thing or a you thing?
You.
Meaning you, them. That's a them thing. I can't come and make sure their bed's made up every day. I can't make sure that the kitty litter is clean out of the kitty box. I can't make sure it's vacuumed and the pillows. I could, and if I have to, if they're on vacation, I've done that before. I'm not saying I won't, but I'm setting an expectation that I want your house light and bright, the shades open, the windows clean, no kids' hands on the doors. This is a you thing. If you want me to sell your house, you have to participate in the condition of the house. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you agree that this is more your responsibility than mine? Oh yeah, I can agree to that. You just set that expectation. Any questions on objection handling in that? Anybody want to give me an objection that they say? That somebody could say?
They don't have time.
Don't have time? Okay. I understand this is very busy. It's busy for you. Do you have time to move? Do you have time to sell? You're going to have to make time, Mrs. Seller, if you want your household. Otherwise, this is an exercise for me in futility. It's an exercise for you in futility. It takes 15 minutes to make beds. Most people are inherently lazy. And by the way, if they're not willing to agree to this process, once again, I may decide that I'm not their choice. When I give you that 70 to 80% of people that I get listings from, or there are a couple in there that I choose to say, you know what, we're not clients. Yeah, we're not suited for one another. Yeah, does that kind of bolster my numbers a little bit? Yeah, maybe. But guess what? I'm probably saving myself a lot. Has anybody ever had a listing or a buyer that you got to the end of the process and you said that wasn't worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. You wish
had
you.
one.
I said that one before it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it happens. Go ahead. What's your question? Speak up for the microphone.
I just had a property close and it was my neighbor's house. And I set all the expectations. And on the last day I went to walk it before she was leaving, like getting in the car and moving to California. She left her whole patio, half of it and stuff. I was so mad for 2 days and I said, you needed to get this removed. And she goes, Liz, I did the best I could.
Okay, so
And I was like,
I've had that happen myself.
so I got it taken care of because she was on her way out. But I was like, for about 2 days I was kind of angry.
So this is no need to get angry, no need to make a transaction personal. So this would be what I would tell you. My follow-up, and by the way, we'll cover end in a minute. My follow-up with her is, what was her name? Liz?
Oh, well, her name is Sandy.
Hey, Sandy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would say, Sandy, you know what? I handled all these things for you. Now I need you to do something for me. That's my end pitch. The end pitch would be, I need you to go do my reviews.
Yeah.
I need you to tell people where I went above and beyond. And I need you to tell your family and friends in Las Vegas of what kind of realtor I am and how I handle problems and how I took care of your situation. You did something for her, quid pro quo. Everybody know what quid pro quo? No. Tongue tied. And I would ask her, and I would just be that frank. And if you don't make it personal, you probably just got you another listing or another sale out of it. So have I had to go clean dressers out of houses because the buyer's agents were pissed? Yes. One reason why I drive a truck instead of a Lexus or a Tesla. so I didn't say somebody just looked up. I didn't point fingers or anything. Yeah. So that make lemonade out of lemons is what I say. Yeah. But this is about, you did your job, you got her sold. This is about condition, what to do before the sale. That's just a typical routine real estate problem. So without somebody who's been through my post-licensing class, post-licensing class on listing presentations, what does A stand for? Anybody have a guess?
Awesome.
Yes, I am awesomeness.
Appearance?
What'd you say?
Appearance?
Appearance? That's more condition, but good guess. That's a common guess. I'll just go ahead and tell you. It's access. A stands for access. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my job is to get your house sold. One thing I can't do is get access to your property if you don't allow it, if you're in the house. Don't mind you being in the house. I prefer you not being in the house when somebody comes through. You know, once again, we're covering due diligence, have your medications, your guns, everything locked up and secure, jewelry, stuff like that. You know, we don't really have a problem with those issues. At least I don't. My listings where somebody comes in because everybody's afraid of everything being recorded now. But if I call you up, remember your client where you said too busy? I'm too busy. I'm too busy to show my house. I'm too busy to leave, allow access. This is a them thing, not a me thing. If I call you once or twice and I'm if I'm spending my time doing my job correctly, marketing your house, and I'm getting people to your front door and you're denying them access, that's a you thing. You're going to have to make sure that you allow access, and not only access to the property, that you give me a fair shot at condition when you're leaving. Okay? I can't control access. I call them up, and this is rarely an issue, but sometimes it is an issue. Maybe 1 out of 20 listings, or one time a year I have a problem with access. But I set the expectation that that is a them thing, not a me thing. Now, key box doesn't work, that becomes a me thing. If there's something wrong and it's a vacant house and there's a dusty or an unworking lock or there's an issue, that can become a me thing. But 99.9% of the time, access is a them thing. Okay? Setting that expectation really quick. So we have condition, access. Anybody have an idea of what P stands for in the CAPE process?
Price.
Price. Who said price? Do you want a little mini Sasquatch? You do? Good. I want it. I like hearing that. I want it. I would do the September thing. Give her 2 claps, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah. If anybody's been through September's class, his thing is you don't clap, you don't think, 2 claps? That's what he does. I like that. But I'm not a famous football player and I don't look like The Rock, so I can't do that. But we'll give September props. Price, exactly. Is a price thing a me thing or a them thing? Both, exactly. Man, this class is smart. It is an us thing. Why is it an us thing? Is because I'm providing them, and this is the most important thing I want you to write down on price. I'm providing them factual information. I'm not going to fluff their property for them. Everybody knows what fluff is, right? I'm not going to, or puff. I'm not going to puff up their property. It's my job as a realtor to tell them what their true value, and in Las Vegas, we don't have a problem showing what true value is on a house, do we? There's usually enough comps, recent sales, that within 6 months, we can give somebody a very accurate price, plus or minus $1,000, $2,000 on the average income, the 350 price range, medium income house that we can get them to and show them what it's at. Here's the question. What do you do when somebody wants to list their house too much? I continue to hit them with the facts. We're using all of our knowledge, and I can say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what makes your house so special? And by the way, I failed on this last year. Brandon will tell you, I failed on this task on a multi-million-dollar house last year. I spent $8,000, $9,000 in marketing and brought a buyer to the house for I believe it was 2.5 cash. The appraiser beforehand told us what it was worth, but because this person thought they were a minor celebrity, thought their house was worth $3.1 million because they were a minor celebrity, they they should achieve that. This was my canned answer to him before, and I should have stuck with it. I said, you're not Michael Jackson, this is not Neverland, and nobody cares. And I should have stuck with that, but I lost ninth. It was a good lesson for me. I did video production, and I got some recognition out of it. They did an article on Realtor.com, Review Journal did an article on it and stuff. But I brought him a cash offer within a realm of where it should have sold. He just was unwilling to sell it at that price. By the way, he's still in the property. A year or so later, it's fine. I learned a lesson. I'm trying to get you guys not to learn the lesson that I learned. I don't think that I'll ever have that in my career. I've also bought a washer and dryer one time that this man over here, when I was a brand new agent, Scotty, made me pay for it. Didn't make me pay for it. He just looked at me and said, you didn't do the contract right. Looks like you're paying for a washer and dryer. And guess what has happened? Anytime I've written anything into a contract now, guess what I make sure they do? Initial it. You can't ask your broker to argue something for you on a mistake that you make. And by the way, when we had the conversation, he looked at me and says, I did it. I've made that mistake before. And he looked at me and says, I bet you'll never make it again. And it was a nice check, but I bit the bullet on it. So we learn lessons in real estate, and that's what makes us better. I learned a lesson on that expensive property. I knew what it was worth. I got greedy, looking for the end result instead of sticking to what the real price was. It's easy. If you have clients, you have to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what makes your house so special? And if they're buying, we use our knowledge to turn that we talked about before to turn the tides on them. What's an easy follow-up question to get them where they need to go down until the right price? Anybody want to guess what that follow-up question to them is? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're going to be a buying client, correct? Are you willing, when we go and I show you properties, to overpay for the next house? Well, no, I'm not going to overpay. You have to overpay me. You get them into the right realm of thinking. You let them know that property in Las Vegas carries an inherent value to it. It's almost impossible unless there's market conditions, such as a rush on the market, anything like that, for somebody to pay, 5, 10, 15, 20% more for a house. It's just not done in the average price range, in the middle income range. Number one, what do you have to get the bank to do after appraisal? Somebody has to breach the gap between the appraised price and its actual value. And if you're buying a $350,000 home, most people, especially during COVID or anything else when funds are light or anything's light, don't have the ability to come out of pocket extra for that. And if you explain that to a seller, then they understand. So knowledge and explanation goes a long way to get somebody where you want to be. Okay? Now, go ahead. What's your question?
I'm sorry, I keep asking questions. Do you use the RPR
Do I use the RPR?
in the
In the MLS?
Yeah.
No. Everybody's seen, you're talking about, and also on the tax guide, on the tax records, when it gives you a range. To me, that's no different than Zillow. Meaning that it's an algorithm-based.
Well, I use it, like if I'm taking a listing and they have upgrades, they can prove those upgrades that, they give me the receipts in the months they did it. I put that in and I brought the value up and I've actually sold the house at that value.
But you asked me if I use the RPR as the baseline. You just answered your own question. You didn't use the RPR. You used comps on the house and you adjusted those comps based on what was in the house, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah, you adjust it up and down, but that's not my starting point. My starting point is I run the comps for recent solds and I go from there. Now, do I look at the RPR? Yes, but if you also look at that RPR, there's a confidence score there too, right? I don't know how many times I've seen that confidence score at 50%. That's a coin flip. I don't want to use a confidence score that's 50. How are you going to explain to your client, you know what, they say there's a 50-50 chance that this is what your house is worth. Does that make you look like a competent listing agent? Probably not. Your way you're running comps are right. The way you're selling it to them is wrong. Sell it saying these are the recent solds, these are the recent under contract, this is what you're up against. I'm looking at the pictures inside the house. Yours is different. This is why we're going up and down, or up in price or down in price. Everybody understand that? Okay. What's the last thing? What's E? No, but we're exposure. This a me thing or a them thing? This is a me thing. This is what they're hiring me for. This is what we're doing. It's my job to expose their house to the masses. Does that mean just throwing it on the MLS? We already talked about this in the beginning and the middle. My job as a realtor is to do more for them than just throw something on the MLS. Remember about me telling you about me contacting, doing the reverse prospecting, contacting buyers agents, those type things? That's your job as well, okay? So exposure, they understand that that's a me thing. They don't have anything to do with that. That's all me, okay? So let's go back because it looks like the pizza's getting here and I want to give Shelly a couple of minutes. We've gone through the end. This is simply our follow-up, okay? We started the story in the beginning, we met the middle, now we're at the end. Most agents do not follow up after they leave the house and they leave their comps. That is so wrong. You lose so many opportunities by not picking up the phone. Why are you not picking up the phone? Remember we talked about what's in our DNA? Remember we talked about the first kiss, how it's scary? Most agents and most salespeople are scared to pick up the phone. The more you pick up the phone, the more you talk to people, the more you get excited, the more you learn from objection handling. Remember I told you you have to be confident in your objection handling. You just pick up the phone. And when do I pick up the phone? Well, it's different for each person, but usually within 24 hours the first time. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is there anything else that I can help you with in making your decision on who you're choosing as a listing agent? Answer their questions. Are there any questions? By the way, we're going back to the pre. I'm hoping there was a Monday night football game, the Raiders, and they were wearing a Raiders shirt. Did you see what the Raiders did last night? Did you see what University of Alabama did last night? Did you see the community event that's coming up in the next community that you're looking at? Whatever those things that we looked at in their background, we're having those discussions. Why? It's because I want them to endear themselves to me. See how important that becomes intertwined in the things that we do. All that stuff becomes important. That's what we're doing on that phone call. If they haven't made a choice yet, and I'm the one calling and I'm making things personal to them, not being creepy, I make things personal to them. When they make their decision, you think I'm at least at the top of their mind? I hope so. I hope I've done my job the right way. Is there too much follow-up? The only time your follow-up should stop, to me, is when they've chose somebody besides you. Then you're breaching your fiduciary duties because they've become somebody else's client. But until they become somebody else's client, I want them. They're mine, okay? There should be a system to it. This is where most people follow down. The system should be, you should have a CRM database that they're in. And by the way, if they sell their house, they don't die. Everything in my database is green for go, yellow for slow down, red. They may be in the red, but they're still there because I may want to follow up with them sometime else if I have an email and a phone number a couple of years down the road, or just maybe endear myself to them more than 6 months from now after they've sold their house. Hey, I saw you sold your house. I just want you to know if you ever have any more questions, consider me. If you know their anniversary, something like that. Send them a card, send them a Christmas card, something. You'd be surprised how many times, most people are not loyal. You make your clients loyal, but that's a way to make them loyal to you. The very last thing that we'll go over, I call this the Beast Book Club. If you guys look at my marketing, I actually spent $10,000 to come up with Sasquatch. Sasquatch was not my idea. Sasquatch was an idea out of LA and a think tank that when I left my former business partner and I had a non-compete for several years that I couldn't do real estate business in a certain area, I had to redefine myself and redefine my business. That's where Sasquatch came from. I spent a lot of money in 2 days, and I'm willing to do that same process that was done for me for anybody inside of Signature. If you need an idea to differentiate yourself, we can discuss that and how to do that. But I think that bouncing things off of people are very important. Having an identity of your own is very important. If you notice how we merged, this wasn't my idea either. Once we came up with Sasquatch, and there's a whole story behind that I'll tell you later because I smell the food and I'm hungry. Best and Beast are the same. I'm not just the best realtor, I'm the Beast realtor out there, just a play on words. But I call this my book club. And I'm going to offer a coaching class based on these 3 books in a pod. If anybody's interested, we can talk about it after. You can come and talk to me. The first book I would recommend is The Psychology of Selling and Persuasion, and it's by Leonard Moore. You can pick this book up on your own. It's about $14. It's also available on Amazon online. I think that I was surprised when we were talking about it yesterday. Brandon took a picture of these. Tyson took a picture of these, and people who want to learn more, they're interested in reading. I would tell you to do that. The second is How to Analyze People by R.J. Anderson. You won't have to write it down because it'll be mandatory for you to do. It's very important that we know how to analyze and read people, and that's what I wanted this class to be more about, is to teach you guys a little bit about that. The second is The Way of the Wolf. Anybody seen Wolf of Wall Street? This book is written by Jordan Belfort. He's the person that The Wolf of Wall Street was designed. He is a master salesperson. He is a master scripts person. There's some personality things in there that we may not agree with, and Jordan went to prison, paid his dues, but his book is masterful. And if you're interested in coaching on these type principles, I would like to start a pod within the next 3 weeks to last about a year about these things right here. I want to do it in groups of 2 up to 10 people, but I don't want to start with a minimum. I only want to start with a minimum of 4, so between 4 and 10. I'll be offering something like this, and you can come to me. If you have any other questions, come to me. I guess the one thing that I would ask of you guys right now, did you all find this information helpful? Did you find that it's something different that you've never heard before? Outside of the standard listing presentation, these are thoughts and ideas that we can differentiate yourself, and you guys can make yourself better salespeople and better agents because of the knowledge that you obtain. And I thank Signature, I thank Brandon and Mike and the management team here for letting me teach. And Shelly's brought us lunch. Shelly, do you have anything you want to come and share with everybody? Come on the camera because we're actually on the line.
So I actually joined the Signature Coaching pod call on Wednesday and heard him present a little bit of it. He kind of gave a teaser to it, so I actually wanted to be here for it. How many of you have heard about the coaching program for Signature? Okay, how many of you have thought about jumping into it? I joined it for just, it was an hour call, 45 minutes. Just this alone for me, and I'm not an agent, I'm not gonna go list a home, but the psychology around just buying and selling and building relationships for me, in the beginning I was like, you want me to stalk my clients is what you're telling me? I gotta go on Facebook and social media and basically try to like all my friends, like them and have them become my friends. That was difficult for me in like the first maybe 5 minutes. But when he opened it up and expanded on why we do it and how it helps us to become not just better listing agents, buying agents, listeners, it made sense to me as far as, wow, that's a great concept. You think about these things, but it's like back to basic as far as what we have to do, and that psychology around it is so fundamental, not just in listing, but in all different things. So If you haven't talked to anybody as far as the coaching, I would definitely say that I don't even know why I'm pitching the coaching because I'm not getting anything from that, but I definitely gained something from that as far as being on that coaching call with them on Wednesday. As far as Prosperity Lending is concerned, how many of you know Prosperity Lending? Has seen a loan officer float around the office, seen me on video? Awesome. So we have some great programs, obviously, A to Z lending. If there's anything you need with respect to listing, how many of you have list reports? Just a handful. List reports is a free tool which will allow you, once you do get your listing, you can actually create flyers, open house flyers. There's also a single property website that you can do. There's also a text code that you can have for lead generation. It's an amazing tool, and again, it is free. So that's 99. What is it? Free 99. So if you do have any questions about that and you want to get enrolled, all you have to do is let myself or any of our loan officers know, and they'll get you signed up for that, again, free. And then as far as all the other marketing things, just know that our team is here for you. The goal for all of us has always been to help you, not just to feed you, but to help you grow your business one loan at a time. So if there's anything you need from me or any of my team, please feel free to reach out to us. That's really all that I have. Great job, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'll be available for half